Hello everybody. Well, I am back. It's time to cook something again. It has been a while since I have actually recorded and done this type of cooking, so give me a little measure of grace. I have missed it, and I've heard from others how much they've missed it. So you've encouraged me to get back into it, and let's get started. So today I'm catering a board meal, and I needed a dessert. We're doing apple dumplings. In fact, it's kind of a funny thing because I had pulled out this book intending to do a gingerbread recipe, which is like classic, delicious, soft, moist gingerbread. And on the opposite page is apple dumplings. Haven't done those for ages, and it just sounded so yummy. So today we are doing apple dumplings. This is out of Betty Crocker's Baking Classics. I don't know if you've ever heard of this book. My mom had this book when I was growing up, and her best desserts, not saying fancy, I'm not saying extravagant, but her best desserts always came from this book. Cookies, cakes, pies, all of it. So over the years, of course, I wanted this book, and she got me this book. It's awesome. So we're doing apple dumplings today. Kind of old school thing. I don't even know if people make these anymore, but basically it's just a full apple that you coat in pie crust, and you bake this one in a delicious caramel sauce. And then when you serve them, the picture shows to just pour cream over them. I'm going to be using ice cream. And then you can kind of use that basted, that caramel that's in the bottom that they're baking in to baste or to just coat over your ice cream, and they are delicious. So let's get started. I am cheating in a couple different ways here, I will be honest with you. So I've got apples back here, and these are all washed up already, okay? Now the recipe would call for us to peel your apples, right? I hate peeling. So there's a number of reasons I'm not peeling the apples. Number one, I hate peeling apples. I hate peeling anything. Number two, I hate peeling apples, and I hate peeling anything. And number three, I'm almost positive that the nutrients are found in the peeling, so I am not peeling these apples for numerous reasons. And I've done it before, and they work out fine. Now what I am going to do, because once this peeling is baked, sometimes it's harder to cut through if you're eating with a spoon. So what I do is I'm going to just kind of run my knife through the outside of this. Does that make sense? To kind of just break that peeling along. So I'll do, 6 down maybe around this thing, and then a couple around the other way. And that just gives it enough give, so when this thing bakes off, it is going to be easier to eat, okay? So we're gonna do this to all our apples, and then we also need to take the innards out. So we're gonna need some type of device to get the inside out. So I just have a standard apple core, and you see how easy that works? Just takes that thing out. So that's what we're gonna do. And then you need an ungreased pan. Now this recipe actually calls for 6 apples. I'm going to be doing probably closer to 9, I think. I don't like to have, they're not the best things left over, so I'll just let you know right now. Yes, they're edible, but you lose the texture in the pie crust. It's kind of like pie crust on second day pie. It's not as good. It never is as good. So I'm not going to make any extra on purpose. Does that make sense? So yeah, you want to core these, and I can still see some seeds off to the side. So we want to be sure the seeds are out. Yeah, that looks much better. Now the other thing we can do with these apples, the recipe calls for you filling it with raisins and nuts. I don't do the nuts. I prefer to do nuts as a garnish because it adds a little crunchiness and texture on the outside. So that is another thing I do intend to do when serving them, but I'm not going to stuff them right in there. So I do have raisins, and I'm sure you could do craisins. You could be creative with this too, but I am going to stuff some raisins in here, and then we just put it in the bottom of our pan. And I am using some ceramic like stoneware, like a pizza stone pan or whatever. So that is the one I'm using. You can use any type of pan to do this. So we're just gonna keep going here, and I'm just gonna set them off to the side, but we do eventually need to wrap these in our dough. So I'm gonna get all these apples prepped, and then we will come back and do the dough. All right, and I just remembered I was going to make one more for my nephew, and he does not want raisins in it. Oops. Now that I've stuffed them all. So we'll throw one more in here, since he said he has never had an apple dumpling. So it is time. It is time. All right, so one without. All right, that's where we are. Now let's get to our pastry portion. So I am cheating. Remember I told you I was gonna have more than one sheet? Here's my second sheet. I'm not making pastry. Now this one isn't so much that I hate making pastry, it's just that I'm not super good at it, and the thought of me being covered in flour is just not appealing to me today, so I'm not doing it. However, we still need our pastry board because we need to roll some of this stuff out, okay? So I am using Pillsbury pie crust. No shame in that, you guys, there really isn't. So we're gonna do this a quick and abbreviated way. Now you wanna be sure that your pastry is a little on the chilly side yet. So it's not like you want it, leave it on your counter for a long time. Then it's just harder to work with, right? That's why when you make it, you use ice cold water and things of such, because you do want to keep it really cool. So we are going to flour our board because we don't want this stuff sticking. And then hopefully you get one that unrolls really good for you. I know these can be hit or miss too, but the beauty of this is that we're just gonna coat these apples. It's not a huge deal if we have some gaps or some dents or whatever going on, okay? So we'll want to roll this out, and a rectangle is really what we're after. So try and get it as close to a rectangle as we can. Now I'm gonna try and get these done with 2 pie crusts. I'm not sure that that's gonna happen, so I may have to pull a couple more out of my freezer and be a little more patient. We'll just see how this goes. All right, so once we get these rolled into kind of what I would call a rectangle, right? Then we need to cut this thing into squares. So what we end up doing, I'll take the one that's not gonna like fall out with raisins. We want to, in essence, gather up 4 sides and seal it, right? Seal it. And then we are going to just put it in our pan. Yeah, I'm gonna get about 4 out of here, so that's okay. I've got more in the freezer. All right, so I'm gonna cut this into 4. What we do is stick this in the middle. Now I already got a pastry brush with some water because we do want these edges to seal. So in order to do that, you make them sticky again, right? Because we just put flour all over them. They're not sticky right now, but we want them sticky. So we're gonna add a little more water and just press down, and that thing will stick. Look at that. Isn't that cute? There's our little pastry bundle. So this is our apple. This is our apple dumpling. So we're gonna go ahead and do the rest and get them all set to go, and then get these things in the oven after we pour caramel sauce all over them. Now, the oven temperature, 425, so you do want to get that oven preheating. I, in the meantime, am going to finish these up, and then we're going to make our caramel sauce to pour over all these, and then it basically just glazes in that caramel sauce as they bake. Sticky deliciousness. I didn't say they were good for you. I just said they were delicious. Remember? I said they were delicious. Okay, I will be back. All right, now here's where it got a little tricky. I realized I could get 5 out of 1, okay? So when you use those squares, it's easier to have them a little bit on the larger order than on the smaller order and having to stretch, because then you're gonna tear them, okay? So I could cut off the bottom and like re-piece, which is what I just did here, to actually get 5 pieces of pastry out of each one. So we, in essence, have 10 apples that we are doing, because that's how the math turned out. See how I just ripped that side? Yeah, and that is totally fine. I have actually done these where I don't even wrap them, and I've just kind of laid over the top, and that works too. So it's homemade, and that's the beauty of it. All right, so these are beautiful. Now I want to just move this stuff out of the way, and then we're gonna get on to making our caramel sauce. Now this is super basic, okay? Brown sugar and water. No, I'm not kidding, it's that easy. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about basic. And I think that's the other reason when they serve them, according to the recipe, you pour cream over them. Because basically that's what's in caramels, right? Brown sugar, cream, butter, probably cream, same difference, and then a little water to make this obviously viscous. We want it slippery and wetter than like a caramel that you would unwrap out of some cellophane. Now these, I want to just show you, of course, I set the one aside for Sam with no raisins, and then I'm going to try one with Swerve brown sugar. I don't know if you're familiar with Swerve. Swerve makes products that are like sugar equivalent. So think, you know, like stevia would be, okay? But Swerve actually makes a brown sugar product, and I want to see how that works in the caramel. So that is why this one is separate. I'm using that brown sugar and the water. So the recipe again calls for 6 apples, and we would be using 2.5 cups of brown sugar packed and 1 1/3 cups of water. So I'm doubling that, because why not, right? So I've got 2 2/3 cups of water in here, and then I'm going to take 5 cups of brown sugar. Count them, 5. I know it seems like really a lot. Like I said, this is a treat. This is not, probably wouldn't be something you'd want to be doing every day, but it's just a fun treat, very nostalgic for me. So there is one. And what we're gonna do, we're just gonna heat this up in the microwave to get it nice and hot before we stick it over the apples. The recipe calls for you to get it to boiling, so you can absolutely do this on a stovetop, and I've done that too. I just don't wanna deal with that. So we're gonna put it in the microwave. Another wonderful use for a microwave. Basically, we just wanna dissolve this sugar into the water is what we're going for, okay? Then we will pour that over our apples and get those babies in the oven. And if you want your house to smell amazing, oh my word, you guys, yeah, crazy good, right? Anything baking, but this basically is just apple pie without the cinnamon. And I have put cinnamon in these before too, and it totally works. So kind of think on that. You could add vanilla extract. I'm pretty sure I've done that in the past too. And that gives it kind of just another level of flavor. So you can be creative with this as well, but we're just gonna go very basic. There's our brown sugar and water slurry. Now I'm gonna get this in the microwave, and we are gonna get that on our apples. Ta-da! You probably can't see it steaming, but it's steaming. So there is our syrup, basically is what we've just created as a brown sugar syrup. So I've got our apples right here. And obviously, you know, all it says is to heat it to boiling. I didn't quite get it to boiling. Pour around dumplings, and then bake spooning or basting over dumplings 2 to 3 times during the baking process. So what I generally do is just get in there with a spoon. If you want to use a baster, go for it. I hate cleaning basters too, so once a year is plenty with the turkey. I'm not doing it today. So we're just gonna pour this over really slowly because it is hot. I think I'm gonna give it a quick stir here first. Be sure we're completely dissolved there on the bottom and mixed. Okay, so I've got one with the Swerve that I already have ready to go over here that we're just gonna give that a try and see what happens. I've got Sam's over here with no raisins. Pour some over his. and then the rest is gonna go over this. And again, I know there's gonna be more than enough of this syrup, but when you're using it on top of ice cream yet too, why not? Just why not, right? I am making plenty. Yeah, they're just basically gonna sit in here and bake and be delicious. So there we go. All right, let's get these into the oven. And 40 minutes. Of course, we just want that pastry baked, it's pie crust, and then that apple baked. So that generally is plenty of time to get these done. And then they can be served warm, of course, is best, but they'll sit out on the stove and just cool while the guys are finishing their dinner anyway, and that is not a big deal at all. They're even delicious at room temperature, to be honest with you. I have taken them, remember how I said they're not really super leftover? However, when you can't get them out of your head and you actually get out of bed to eat one out of the refrigerator cold, yeah, they're still that good. It's not that they're not edible, they're just not premium. Okay, let's get these into the oven and we will check back in about 45 minutes after we've basted them 2 to 3 times with the syrup that we're just gonna spoon from the bottom and put back over the top, and we'll get these out. All right. Okay, here's our first basting. It is boiling like crazy, which is good. That's a good thing. Let me get this oven shut here again so we don't lose all of our heat. So basic spoon. All I'm going to do is tip this a little bit and baste them. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm just like re-spooning that liquid over the top is all I'm doing. And it's just gonna create this nice glaze. Now they're browning up really nice already. I think this has been 20 minutes in. So I'm gonna do it at 20 and I'm gonna do it at 30, and then I'll do it probably at like 35 just to get that final little glossy coating on here. So very simple, right? And they're smelling wonderful already. You guys, I don't know if you can smell them. The caramel is great. It's looking great. It doesn't thicken up quite a bit this early on, but it's going to thicken the longer it sits in that oven, because it's water, right? Water and sugar, it's just gonna evaporate more as it bakes down, as it caramelizes. That's what's going on. So I'm gonna get these back in the oven and we'll pull them out when they are ready to eat. All right, guys, check this out. So this is our final basting. All right, they have browned up quite a bit in that time frame, in that other 10 minutes. I'm gonna baste one more time and we're gonna put them back in for about 5 minutes. So these did not take as long as anticipated on the recipe. Our total is gonna be closer to 35 minutes here. I don't wanna get them too crazy brown where they start to burn, you know, because I probably will put them back in the oven, just a low oven right before I serve them to just get that little crisp back on. So we're gonna get these back in the oven for about 5 minutes and then we are done. All right, kids, here they are. Apple dumplings. They're beautiful, aren't they? Okay, so that has been our fun throwback on our dessert tonight that we're doing apple dumplings. And again, they're meant to be served. You just pour heavy cream over the top and enjoy. I am going to be doing ice cream over the top, and then we'll use some more of that caramel sauce that's floating around on the bottom to put on top, and then I'm going to put some toasted pecans on the top of that. So they're gonna be delicious, beautiful, and something you don't get every day, right? These are not something that you probably even see on menus too much every day. So it's been a lot of fun to do this. Again, thanks for allowing me into your home to cook with you today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Let me know if there's anything that you want me to give a try. I'd be willing to do that. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.